I know there's a discussion of whether or not he should have won it last year. It's hard to argue when it's Aaron Donald because it's Aaron Donald, but I thought T.J. Watt still all the same made a really strong case for it, but I agree with you. If he even approaches Strahan, gets within one or maybe even ties it, or God forbid breaks it, I think the award is definitely his. 412-575-2600 on the Borders and Borders hotline. Got a question from Bob on Twitter, Chris, who asks, he says, first of all, great win for the Steelers on Sunday, but he thinks it would be meaningless if the Steelers lose tomorrow night. And he says, Justin Jefferson is an elite wideout. Can the Steelers stop him and the Vikings run game, in your opinion?
I think that they can stop the run game somewhat because Dalvin Cook might not play. Madison is a pretty good. Alexander Madison, the times he's been asked to fill in and start, he's had 100-plus yards, I think, his previous 2 starts for them this year, earlier in the season. So he's a legitimate backup running back, a two-headed monster when they want one. Kirk Cousins is the wild card here. I think Justin Jefferson's a top 8 or so, top 10 receiver for sure in the NFL. He's great, but there's no Thielen tomorrow.
Right.
Those guys draft off of each other, and they're both. Ryan Clark went on with us today, and obviously Ryan is kind of the dean of secondary play. We love picking his brain, and he said those two guys are just so tough because when they're both healthy, the catch radiuses, or radii, I think my English teacher mother would want me to say, the catch radii for those two men is just so impressive, especially in Thielen's case. It's just off the charts that he's very tough to defend. As far as, is it meaningless, that Ravens win if they don't get this one? In a way, that kind of harsh judgment is actually correct by Bob. They have to keep winning. I think at bare minimum, 9-7-1 gets you in the discussion, but the AFC feels like such an unbelievable meat grinder, Josh, this year, that it might take 10 to get in as a wild card. If you were in the NFC, that'd be a different story, but the AFC is tough and rugged right now. And
I think it makes it all the more complicated for them because they have that tie. So that makes it even stickier as far as that situation is.
You're not going to back into a playoff spot. You're not going to back into a playoff spot because you tied a team. You're not going to have that almost certainly help you. It's going to hurt you. It's going to cost you a win, not spare you a loss like it might have in previous years where 10-5-1 gets in over 10-6. That ain't happening this year.
Absolutely. We got Russ in Mount Lebanon on the line. Russ, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
I want to talk about this Whipple situation.
Let's do it.
You guys, the media made a big deal out of nothing. Basically, he was going to be gone anyhow. And the other thing is he got a job that nobody wanted. Nobody wants to be the offensive coordinator at Nebraska because they're going to be gone. If Frost has any type of year that's like he's had in the past 4, he's gone right away. Notre Dame did the exact same thing 3 years ago. They fired Chip Long, who had them in the college playoff the year before. He came off a 10-2 season, and they promoted Tommy Rees, who was a young assistant on her staff. If Pitt promotes Brennan Marion, it would be the same exact situation, and they probably should because he has some experience as an OC. But that Nebraska
Russ, I have a question for you. I have a question for you. In what way was the media overblowing this, though?
That's what I want to know.
Pretty much, it's out there that he and Pat Narduzzi had a working relationship but did not see it eye to eye. He went to Nebraska in part because they are down. I can tell you that as a guy who used to root for him when Tom Osborne was there.
Ooh.
They're down bad right now as a program, but they paid him more money because they have boosters out there who want to because it's the only game in town. So I guess my question to you would be, how did we collectively in the media misrepresent the situation?
You didn't misrepresent it. You made a big deal out of it. It
How?
wasn't a big deal.
How?
Everybody, you listen.
No. Answer the question. How did they make it a big deal?
All you have to do is listen to people like Cook and the other guy that's on there don't know anything about college football.
Let's not get crazy, but still.
I mean, here, people are making a big deal out of it. I guess my rebuttal would be to this. People made a quote-unquote big deal out of it because a team that hadn't won 11 games in a season did so for the first time in 40 years. And a guy that people like me, Andrew Filipponi, I know we both admitted this today, we thought Kenny Pickett coming back this year is nice, but not great based on what he had done so far. He and Whipple blossomed together, and he's going to be at the Downtown Athletic Club as a Heisman finalist. That is why people are saying it is a big deal, at least right now, because the timing is jarring, and the guy had massive success. Yes, he was almost certainly going to be gone no matter what.
Yes.
It still is a big deal.
And one of the reasons why he came back was to work with Mark Whipple, and apparently it was vice versa. Whipple came back for another year because Kenny Pickett was coming back. Apparently that was hand in hand or hand in glove, if you will. So
Josh, I have to say something else to this too. And I am no Notre Dame fan. But Russ's point there seems to be, hey, Notre Dame blew out a coordinator, hired Tommy Rees. It's all good because Tommy Rees and Marcus Freeman now I think have people excited there because there's not an incredibly unlikable person running the program. He's down faking an accent in Baton Rouge. But with all due respect, and as a guy that has never once for a day in his life rooted for Notre Dame, Pitt and Notre Dame exist on different planets in the college football orbit. So, when Pitt goes to Brennan Malone and a guy that wants to bring in the go-go offense from the Todd Graham sort of school, that's where he cut his teeth on that coaching tree.
Sure did.
That's going to be received differently than Tommy Rees as a young 26, 27-year-old taking over the reins at Notre Dame, where just the overall stability, the money that pours in, everything else is just diametrically opposed to what it is here.
And it's also worth mentioning. I'm glad you mentioned that Notre Dame and Pitt pretty much are on different levels here. It also comes back to the same thing where we're talking about Pitt's going to have an entirely different offensive identity because Kenny Pickett leaving this offense, I don't want to use the term leaving a hole.
He was their offensive identity. The offense was Kenny Pickett. That was the identity.
It leaves a hole there that has to be filled. So we could talk about which offense they're going to run, but here's the question. Who's their quarterback going to be to run that offense? And will he be able to fit whoever OC comes in, whatever he puts together to make all that work?
I think it's going to be Brennan Marion, and I think
I do too.
Kenny Pickett said to us today that he was great with the wide receivers. Marion was he did a great job. They obviously brought him in, I think, to be a coordinator in waiting. So I'll say that if Russ's basic point there was everybody and their brother knew that he was pretty much going to be gone, I get it. We all sort of did.
Yep.
Here's the thing. Marion, the one thing I'll say about him is Pickett sang his praises, said that he fixed a lot of the stuff blocking-wise. Those guys blocked better. They dropped a ton of passes last year. That disappeared this year. I have some high hopes for him. I hope he does well. I want to see some new blood get infused here. But to make it out to be hey, it worked for Notre Dame with Tommy Rees, it's going to work here. 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2 like that.
Yeah, that's not always the safest assumption considering the fact that we're talking about two different levels of talent as well too. I'd say Notre Dame's cupboard probably looks a little bit more full than Pitt's does after this season comes to an end. We got to take another break. We'll wrap up when we come back. Stick around.